Alright, time for another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here. Robot number, whatever. 17,643,497. Something like that. Anyway, making a video. Alright, making a video about a video I made already. And, it's about a subject I already talked about. So I'll talk some more about the subject, I guess, which is just the idea of what's it take to convince people or to motivate people to say at least the right thing regarding the facts of our circumstance, which is pretty bleak in terms of being these little bugs, trapped in a little bug vial. And it's kind of an ugly environment we exist in, full of rotting and decomposing bugs. And, there's the stench, of having to witness an awful lot of unnecessary and wasted pain and suffering, and watch things happen to our relatives and friends and blah, 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 and yuck. So it's pretty nasty in this fish tank. Lots of waste we have to swim through and consume, and tolerate. Lots of just crap. Same old stories, just rewriting them over and over again. The same old Shakespearean tragedies, over and over and over, blah blah blah, redundant, yuck. Now there are some bubbles, little shiny bubbles now and then. Some little funny thing happens. You have a little tiny bit of fun, but most of it is kind of tedious and irritating and fatiguing. Yuck. Anyway. So yeah, let's not make more of them. Just quit making fish tanks and quit putting fish in them, until such time as you can do it in some kind of free way where there's just absolutely no downside. It's all up. No victims. Nobody gets tortured for it. You don't have to kill anything. You don't have to rape any 9-year-old girls to make your little world. So let's get to that point before we start saying, oh, go ahead, what the hell? Why would you even say that, though? There's no point in, there's no point in saying it. Anyway, there's nothing, there's no point, is the point of the video. So anyway, I was trying to get to that through these different ways of pointing out how religion's really a big problem, so I sort of wanted to mention that. The delusion, it's not a harmless God delusion, it's a very harmful God delusion. It doesn't make people decent and nice, it makes them rude and obnoxious, imposing, arrogant, in just the nastiest way possible, and then that they arrogantly impose suffering on people for no good reason, but because they have some notion that God said so. God says you should die badly. Fuck you, that's really stupid. Anyway, so let's play some of the video, and we'll see where it provokes my reflexive brain to say some reflexive thing relevant to the subject. Sure, they're kids, and they're really not. They really have no interest in defending what they're doing. Right, so it's just this idea that, it's this high-risk game they're playing with their children. They haven't bought insurance. There's daggers on the ground. There's all kinds of swords of Damocles hanging from above. You throw them on the tightrope and play this game like you're doing them a favor. And you really have no way of covering the absolute disaster. So the disaster happens, there's no undo button, there's no redo button, there's no start over button, there's just no buttons that fix it. You just sit there and say, well, whatever. It didn't happen to me. I mean, there's really no way to escape the grotesque harm you have imposed because you have a silly notion that somehow you were serving some purpose. when all you served was torture. That's what you served. These still stupid, old, archaic, moronic stories. Yeah, so I was doing some of the religious thing, just why? It's so stupid. And so later I sort of point out it's really not about the story. It's about the social infrastructure. It's about playing bingo, really. It's about friends, and it's about feeling secure and all this kind of bullshit. And atheists have to just come up with some way of mimicking some of that crap, even though it's not their style, to pretend. They have to create some sort of incentive just to make their bandwagon seem like the better bandwagon, and that's all the people really care about were the perks. So you just have to create some perks. I mean, whatever it takes, dancing girls, something. Perspective. They're putting things in the environment that aren't in the environment. So nature or intelligence does that. It gives you the capacity to imagine the world, okay, and by imagining it, you can imagine it with all kinds of monsters in it, and therefore you'll be aware of the fact that you have to be careful because there could be a monster loose. So it gives us this capacity to see more, and when we should be using that capacity to see the more of it's more than just a toy. It's more than a kitten. It's the kitten grows up. We should be able to see the future and see your child's death. You should be able to see that and recognize, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to impose death on something? And recognize that's not a good idea. Until they get rid of that part, maybe I'm not going to bother. I don't have any desperate need to torture something for my gratification, whatever the gratification I'm getting anyway, which is hard to imagine anyway. You don't have to do much thinking to see the downsides of having kids. They're all over the place, frankly, in terms of how they will destroy the meaning of your life as you try to create meaning for your children. That's if you take it at all seriously. That's what you're going to try to do. You don't take it too seriously, and then you just hire it done and just pretend. I don't know. It's all some sort of pantomime play you're doing or something. I don't know. A dance. It's really trivial then. 100 kids to make one kid not get tooth decay, to cure it of tooth decay. So we're getting this tiny advantage for this huge cost of, evolution basically kills so many to perfect tiny little improvements in the design. And to endorse that system, you got to be a sadistic lunatic. You have to be a child molesting, mass murdering kook to sit there and say, yeah, let's just keep doing that. Let's keep playing by those moronic rules of a ton of failure for a tiny little... Oh, I jumped in, a millimeter higher. No, it's not. The millimeter isn't worth what you're paying for it. They're 13 years old, decide to have kids. Alright, so that's the other problem, is that this isn't about decisions. It really isn't about thinking or talking or having a conversation. It's just about the fact that we've created an infrastructure that endorses the behavior, and that endorsement is a huge mistake. And that, frankly, the infrastructure should be saying, you're not going to win, okay? We're not going to be bribed by you having kids. We're not going to give you free life because you had kids. We're not going to pay for it, and all that kind of crap. They have to really create a hard line in terms of creating a reward and punishment system that's somewhere coherent to the behavior you should be endorsing or supporting or defending or encouraging. And obviously we don't have that right now in their environment and drawing conclusions. So if they don't have the personal experience, in a fair fight, not having kids wins huge, because if people actually had to pay the full price for having kids, if they couldn't steal money from the people that don't have kids, they'd really be in trouble. They'd really find out just how brutal it is. and just how much of their life they have to compromise for this pretense of, you know, doing something good. Yeah. No, you're just making another victim, and they're likely just to make a mess, frankly. A mess that nobody will clean up. Yuck. Yeah, I can't even... you know, I'm having a hard time imagining what's motivating somebody to do something. I don't know exactly what it was, but, you know, just the idea probably of having kids. I mean, what's the appeal? There's just so much danger in it, and so many ways to fuck it up. Why the hell would I pretend I can play that instrument? People who have died badly and all of that kind of crap. Yeah, so we could use the testimony of all those people, the people who have, you know, it'd be better if people talked about what their life was after they lived it all, instead of talking before they've lived it all. So, I mean, I could talk about the risks and the dangers and how you should have this negative perspective, because I don't have to account for the biggest negative, which is dying, and how big a price that actually is, and how most people pay a huge price for it. Now, I would say the catastrophic price sometimes. I mean, the price is just so bad. It happens in such an insidious and horrible way, and, you know, people having their own kids fighting over their possessions, and, you know, they get the Alzheimer's, and I mean, all this terrible stuff that happens to people, and just disgusting. And, you know, so people talking about how great it is when they haven't done the biggest negative part of it yet, is kind of bullshit. Oh, I know it's worth it. You're telling somebody you know it's worth it and you haven't done it yet. That's really lame, frankly. As a philosophical position, that's a pretty lame philosophical position for you to tell somebody else, I know it's worth it. You're going to like it. It's going to be profitable. Even though you haven't lived the biggest, you know, deficit part of it. The part that's going to be the roughest to get through. Button, you know, for the disaster. And, you know, so yeah, it's not a video game. It's really, you know, this is real life we're playing. We're the gods, so to speak. We got to take responsibility for every bit of it. And, you know, people are just evading that with this simplistic delusions of spirituality or meaning or some kind of purpose bullshit, when we're just bugs. We're really poorly designed. We're playing a really bad game. I mean, we're poorly designed playing a really bad game. I mean, that's the definition of pretty goddamn stupid. The more technically precise our life becomes, the more these decisions are going to be. Alright, so that's sort of an argument about how, you know, just that we're becoming more and more informed, in the sense at least more access to information, less, you know, less stuff is hidden. So that's why the argument that, well, antinatalism will die out because they don't have kids to brainwash into being antinatalist. Yeah, they're going to show up anyway, because the spawn of the natalist will be able to figure this out, because it really doesn't take much of a brain to do it, frankly. And they're going to figure out how they can be smarter than their dopey parents were. They can be more responsible and more compassionate and more empathetic, and give a damn about not being a rude, obnoxious, imposing asshole, and a reckless slob. Okay, I mean, your parents, maybe they eat hamburgers and drink Cokes while they drive, and maybe you can figure out, hey, you know what, I probably shouldn't do that, because that's really reckless and dumb. You might get somebody killed doing that. Yeah, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So they can break the pattern of moronic. Fortunately, genetics ain't everything. And the idea of recognizing that this isn't some god game that we're playing, it's a real game. Yeah, so I mean, it's a big one. I mean, just the idea of it's a stifling truth once you accept that you're in this kind of cruel, brutal world. You know, where everything you do is, you know, every bit of oxygen has been paid for. You know, a high price has been paid for it. something's had to live and die hard and all of that crap, and that's a burdensome bit of knowledge to know just how dangerous your life is for yourself and for everything around you, and every action is critically important in ways you can't understand or know, because we don't have the crystal ball to see how it all plays out. We don't know when we're stepping in way too slippery a mud, all of that crap. So once there's no God to say it's his fault, then the only person's at fault is you, fucker. It's your fault. What did you do? You defended it? You placated it? You kissed its hairy, disgusting, dirty ass? Long to. But, you know, it's sort of obnoxious to the whole point of being an atheist is, you know, it's, you know, atheists are about playing chess or something, or doing these other things that have a little more dignity, let's just say. I mean, that is the atheists who aren't wasting their time just doing drugs. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's not really a club. And they don't have club features. And unfortunately, the dumbasses need club features. They need a gang to go to the ballpark with. You know, they don't like rooting from their black and white TV or whatever. Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head. You know, some example. Okay, so some example of an ironic price paid. Yeah, so I still probably don't have one. But there's probably lots of them. You know, the rape victim who ends up, you know, defending the next rape. That kind of thing. There's lots of this idiocy going on. Victims who just become perpetrators. For the right reasons. Because human beings recognized with a somber and respectful pause that, yeah, this isn't a good enough story. Yeah, okay, and that's all it comes down to is, you know, it doesn't take much intelligence to know that how is it polite to force something to play a game that's rather grisly and difficult, and, you know, the odds aren't very good that you're going to actually be a winner, and all that kind of crap. Why the fuck would I impose that on somebody? Yuck. And then on top of that, you're going to impose whatever their random shitty death will be. You call that I love you. Well, fuck you. Don't love me, please. Anyway, so that was pretty much the video, right? Yeah. Well, obviously there was lots of little bits in between that, and so here and there I might have caught a phrase or something, and who knows. So it's probably worth listening to. But, you know, it isn't that complicated, so really once you get it, you get it. You probably don't need me to keep saying it different ways, because you probably just, yeah, I already heard that. Yeah, I already get that. I already, yeah. So I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, but if you are a confused believer in hope, then yeah, please pay more attention. Yeah. Anyway, all right, so that's enough of a video. So till the next time, and such and so forth and whatnot. This has been a donotgod.com video presentation. So I hate to think of having to go back to atheist arguments, but really, you know, the whole religion thing, we really do have to fix it. It is a dangerous delusion. It's not harmless. It's really in the way of everything. I mean, it just gets in the way of people being capable of taking responsibility for their life. It's just a huge cop-out, you know. And it just allows people to not have to explain themselves and defend themselves, because they can just blame God or the universe or some kind of crap and say, I didn't have anything to do with it. When, yes, of course, everything you thought has everything to do with it. And you're basically saying, I couldn't figure out 2 + 2. Yeah, you could. And if you're honest, you know the right answer and you're saying the wrong answer. You're supporting 3 because it's convenient, because you're going to get a paycheck if you convince other people it's 3, but you know it's not 3. So don't pretend your brain wasn't capable of getting the right answer. You just chose to support a wrong answer because it was to your convenience and nothing more. That kind of crap. Alright, so yeah, that's good enough. So till the next time and such, when I'll do some similar thing, trying to explain to the other robots, this robot will explain to the other robots why you're seeing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're calculating wrong, and you should stop doing that because it's really dangerous to be saying the wrong shit and defending the wrong shit. Anyway, yeah, that's enough. Till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Blah, 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 blah. This has been a donotgod.com video presentation. Yeah. This is part of the tedious, unpleasant part of life. Ugh. But anyway. You gotta be in it to win it, so to speak. Gotta try. Anyway, till next time and such.